Have you ever wondered whether stories of beast-like warriors, ghostly cavalries, or children with blue skin exist only in legend? Tonight, we will uncover a remarkable truth: many medieval tales that seem mythical are, in fact, real to an astonishing degree. In this video, I will guide you into strange corners of history, where the boundary between imagination and reality grows faint. Picture yourself listening to accounts of Viking warriors who fought like bears and wolves, of townsfolk who danced until they collapsed during the dancing plague, or of alchemical experiments that quietly laid the groundwork for modern chemistry. Each story opens a door into the mysterious medieval world, where people confronted fear, belief, and survival in ways that feel almost unimaginable today. This video does more than recount events. It invites you to feel each detail, each emotion, letting your imagination drift gently between myth and truth. So relax, close your eyes, and allow these stories to lead you on a mesmerizing journey through history, filled with wonder and quiet fascination. As we begin our journey through medieval tales that seem to exist only in legend, it becomes difficult not to be drawn into the strange and majestic images that history has preserved. Stories of Viking warriors, of creatures half human and half beast, or of solemn rituals shaped by uncanny traditions may sound like the inventions of ancient poets or old chroniclers. Yet, if we look more closely, we soon discover that even the grandest myths often rest upon a core of truth, and at times, that truth is far more astonishing than imagination. Within this landscape, the tale of the berserkers, the beast warriors of the Viking world, emerges as a vivid reminder of strength, fear, and the extraordinary limits human beings can surpass. The berserkers were not ordinary fighters. They embodied a fusion of physical and mental power so overwhelming that many of us today might struggle to imagine it. Legend tells us that they could transform into bears and wolves, and that they became almost immune to pain. This image leaves us shivering in awe, as though stepping into a realm where the usual rules of body and mind have been overturned. What is remarkable is that these stories are not merely fantasy. Modern research shows that true berserkers used Amanita muscaria, a hallucinogenic, trance-inducing mushroom, in their rituals and battle preparations. The interplay of chemistry, ceremony, and psychological conditioning produced a state we might now describe as maximum warrior intensity, where the body grew unyielding, pain faded, and fear dissolved. Beyond this, the berserkers underwent elaborate rites designed to discipline the mind and command the emotions. Their attire, often animal hides or strange ceremonial garments, was not only meant to inspire terror but carried deep ritual meaning. Artifacts discovered in ancient graves reveal that these were not wild, spontaneous acts but part of a refined system of instruction and training passed down across generations. When we see this, we begin to realize that the berserkers were not frenzied, chaotic fighters, but individuals shaped to achieve mastery in the art of combat, an art requiring both mind and body to transcend ordinary limits. Part of the berserkers' enduring fascination lies in the profound contradiction between their immense strength and the heavy price they paid for it. They could reach astonishing heights of combat ability, yet the loss of control after battle and the severe psychological effects often destroyed many of them. The image of warriors who seemed nearly immortal on the battlefield but were crushed by their own minds once they returned home reminds us that absolute power comes with profound risks. This is not merely a tale of fighting and terror, it is a lesson on human boundaries, on how spirit and flesh, when pushed to extremes, can become both allies and enemies. When we reflect on the berserkers, we see more than a group of fighters, we see a living emblem of human potential. In their world, pain ceased to matter, fear vanished, and the mind merged with the body to create a heightened state of being. Their stories prompt us to wonder. If modern humans learn to master both mind and body with equal precision, could we reach limits we have never imagined? And more importantly, these tales remind us that every kind of power carries consequences, and controlling such power demands wisdom, discipline, and profound self-understanding. It is impossible to ignore that the berserkers also reflected a unique cultural and social facet of Viking life. They lived in a world where battle defined survival, and where honor and authority were measured by victory in brutal confrontations. Within this context, the berserkers were not merely exceptional individuals, they were collective symbols, psychological instruments that strengthened community morale, inspired unity, and asserted dominance. Their presence on the battlefield spread terror among enemies, but it also reinforced order and faith within their own society. What makes the berserkers unforgettable to later generations is the rare blend of mythology, psychological insight, and practical warfare found within their story. They were not only icons of physical might but proof of how humans can harness both mental and biological forces to surpass limits once thought impossible. Every detail, from the rituals and the hallucinogenic mushrooms to the clothing and the artifacts found in ancient graves, affirms that this was a deliberate system, not an invented legend. These discoveries astonish us, not only because of medieval creativity and resilience, but because they reveal how deeply rooted in reality some seemingly mythical tales truly are. And finally, as we let our minds drift alongside the story of the berserkers, it becomes easy to feel something both frightening and admirable. The blend of overwhelming strength, fierce spirit, and tragic consequence creates an experience both gripping and quietly emotional. The berserkers remind us that every myth holds a truth, and every power carries both light and shadow. When we close our eyes and picture these beast warriors, we wander into a realm where history, legend, and psychological insight merge into one, a realm that captivates the imagination and makes the heart beat a little faster with the echo of ancient battles. The berserkers, with all their strangeness, strength, and sorrow, are not merely a story to be told, but a reminder of our own potential and our own limits. And as we move forward into the next tales, from the dancing plague to other mysterious medieval phenomena, each step on this journey draws us closer to a remarkable truth, where myth touches reality and where every story opens a new window into human power, fear, and wonder across the ages. After letting our imagination wander with the beast-like warriors of the Vikings, with their strength pushed beyond all limits, their fear stripped away, and their spirits driven to the extreme, we seem to have stepped into a world where the line between myth and reality grows soft and blurred. But if the berserkers stand as proof of how body and mind can merge to create power, then the next story reveals a very different face of medieval history. A place where collective belief, social tension, and human biology intertwine in strange, unsettling ways, creating phenomena at once bizarre and heartbreakingly tragic. And among all those haunting tales, nothing startles and chills the imagination quite like the plague that made people dance themselves to death, the dancing plague of 1518 in Strasbourg. Imagine this scene: on an otherwise ordinary morning, the people of Strasbourg suddenly felt compelled to dance. No one knew exactly why, but their feet would not stop. 1, 2, 3 people, then dozens, then hundreds danced without rest. Day after day they danced in the blazing sun, in the dim drizzle, until their bodies finally collapsed, many dying from sheer exhaustion. It is a vision that sends shivers through anyone who hears it, a plague whose victims were not infected with any usual pathogen, but driven by an invisible, irresistible force that felt almost supernatural. It was terrifying, irrational, and deeply mysterious, leaving us to wonder, how could an entire community fall into such chaos? This event, though it sounds mythical, is backed by clear historical records, and it occurred more than once across the centuries. Archives from Strasbourg describe those dreadful days in detail, people dancing despite fatigue and pain, collapsing on the streets. Even when religious leaders and city officials recognized the danger, they had no idea how to stop it. The dancing plague was not simply a personal tragedy, it was a vivid demonstration of the collective power of belief, social strain, and biological forces that medieval people had no means to understand. Modern explanations suggest multiple intertwined causes. One possibility is ergot poisoning, a fungus found on rye that contains compounds similar to LSD. Consumed unknowingly, it can induce hallucinations, neurological disturbances, and erratic, uncontrolled behavior. Combined with harsh living conditions, hunger, disease, and intense religious pressure, the people of Strasbourg may have been pushed into a shared psychological state, a mass psychogenic illness, where fear and tension spread quickly from one person to another, turning a single case into a full-scale communal catastrophe. Yet what makes this story truly astonishing is not merely the mystery of its cause, but how people of that time reacted to and interacted with the phenomenon. Some community leaders and clergy even encouraged the dancing, believing that movement would release the soul from evil or sickness. This reveals a strange convergence of faith, culture, and physiology, where irrational behavior became a social tool to maintain order, or at least to make sense of the inexplicable. That very intertwining is what gives the dancing plague its symbolic power, reflecting both the force of collective belief and the limits of human understanding during the medieval age. The image of Strasbourg streets filled with exhausted dancers, their footsteps echoing endlessly, evokes a feeling both horrifying and sorrowful. In imagination, each step becomes a shared heartbeat, a cry from bodies fighting against fear, pain, and despair. The dancing plague is not just a historical event. It is a testament to the power of collective emotion, to the ways fear, social pressure, and human chemistry can merge and alter behavior in ways hard to fathom. There is a profound lesson in this story that remains relevant even today. Collective psychology and social environment can drive human beings toward irrational, yet dangerously real actions. Looking at Strasbourg in 1518, we see that despite our advances in technology and medical knowledge, belief, tension, and psychological contagion still hold immense sway over human decisions. The dancing plague reminds us that humanity has never truly separated itself from collective emotion, and that history offers enduring lessons about how we react to fear and pressure. The dancing plague also opens a doorway for us to reflect on how strange historical events can be reinterpreted through modern science. Toxic fungi, psychological disorders, social stress, factors that seem unrelated can merge into a phenomenon that medieval people could only describe with words like magic or madness. Understanding this not only deepens our appreciation for scientific progress, but also reveals the remarkable creativity of human imagination. Our ability to explain the unexplainable when knowledge is limited. Yet the tale of the dancing plague is more than a study of causes, it is an emotional journey. When we picture those days in Strasbourg, we cannot help but feel empathy for the pain, exhaustion, and despair of the victims. We see their faith, their anxiety, their desperate need to find meaning amid confusion and fear. Even in the most irrational human actions, there lies a profoundly human core. The need to be understood, to be comforted, to find purpose in the midst of chaos. The story also invites us to consider how deeply connected people are to one another. A single person's mysterious impulse, when amplified by a volatile social environment, can become a communal tragedy. It is a reminder of the power, and the danger of the collective mind, of the way beliefs and emotions spread, and of how each individual is part of a broader mental and emotional web that they may not even perceive. It was this collective force that turned simple movements into disaster, and ordinary citizens into central figures of a story retold for centuries. When we close our eyes and imagine that scene, the rhythmic footsteps, the sweat, the pain, the terrified expressions, it rises like a living memory. It reminds us of both human fragility and human strength, showing that history is not a sequence of dry dates but a vivid canvas full of emotion and tragedy. And within that merging of horror and wonder lies the enduring allure of the medieval world, where belief, fear, body, and mind intersect to create stories that continue to fascinate, unsettle, and inspire us. The dancing plague stands as proof that medieval history is not only filled with mighty warriors or mythical beasts, but also extraordinary social and psychological phenomena, events born from the interplay of biology, belief, and environment, producing behaviors at once bizarre, tragic, and deeply human. As we step into the world of Strasbourg in 1518, we do not simply pass through an event. We enter an emotional journey where history, science, and psychology weave together into a story both eerie and vivid, both frightening and captivating to the imagination. And as we prepare to move on to the next tale, the Children's Crusade, we carry with us the image of those relentless dancers, their fear, and the limits to which humans can be pushed, a reminder that history is always rich with strange, astonishing, deeply emotional phenomena, waiting for us to explore and feel. After the relentless footsteps of Strasbourg, where hundreds of people were swept into an inexplicable compulsion, dancing until exhaustion, and even until death, we seem to have reached the limits of collective force and the strange influence of social psychology. If the dancing plague reveals how belief, fear, and biology can merge a community into a single living organism, then the next story draws us into an entirely different world. One where innocence, religious faith, and human greed intertwine to create an unforgettable tragedy. It is the story of the Children's Crusade of 1212, an event that makes anyone who hears it shudder, torn between sorrow and awe at the strength of will and the purity of youth. The Children's Crusade began with divine messages that thousands of children in France and Germany believed came directly from God, calling upon them to liberate Jerusalem. These children, hearts untainted and faith unwavering, gathered in great numbers, leaving behind families and villages to embark on a journey they believed would change the fate of the world. Imagining thousands of children walking forward, eyes gleaming with conviction yet unaware of the dangers awaiting them, one cannot help but feel both admiration and heartbreak. They stand as living symbols of absolute belief, of fervor, and of a kind of innocence so profound it becomes frightening. But the journey was far from gentle. Treacherous paths, scarcity of food, sickness, and the bitter cold of mountain passes turned a divine dream into a harsh tragedy. Many children died from hunger, illness, and exhaustion as they struggled through unforgiving terrain. Others were exploited by opportunists who sold them into slavery in North Africa and the Levant. This event unfolds as a sorrowful tableau, where the pure faith of children is manipulated with cruelty, reminding us that throughout history, human greed can overshadow even the most sacred ideals. What makes the Children's Crusade both terrifying and deeply emotional is the way it reflects the power of religious faith. These children did not march for violence or personal ambition, they walked because of a calling they believed came from God Himself. From a modern perspective, it becomes clear that this was a complex blend of belief, social pressure, and the cultural weight of medieval religion, forces strong enough to make fragile young individuals braver than seasoned warriors on the battlefield. This vision, simultaneously majestic and tragic, stands as a testament to how absolute faith can inspire extraordinary actions, yet lead to immense risk and suffering. The Children's Crusade also illustrates the mechanisms of medieval society, where religious conviction could dictate every decision, even for those barely old enough to understand its implications. Children, with their innocence and unwavering trust, became living vessels of collective will. Yet tragedy struck when that faith lacked guidance, when protection and wisdom were absent. This event reminds us that in any society, faith and determination without knowledge and foresight can lead to devastating consequences. As we read about and imagine the Children's Crusade, it is impossible not to feel deep empathy for its young participants. Every step they took along those perilous roads echoed with hope and enthusiasm, but also fear, fatigue, and danger. These children were not only victims of circumstance but also living evidence of the inner strength human beings can summon when faith and resilience merge. The image stirs the heart with both wonder and sorrow, for the courage and innocence of youth can give rise to journeys that are extraordinary, and heartbreakingly tragic. Another layer that makes this story so thought-provoking is the greed and exploitation of adults. While the children acted out of faith, adults were ready to twist the movement for personal gain, selling them, enslaving them, manipulating their beliefs. This stark contrast between innocence and greed forms a dark shadow in the historical narrative, forcing us to question whether, even in humanity's most idealistic endeavors, people can ever be completely free from desire and ambition. This opposition gives the Children's Crusade significant moral weight, becoming a lesson in faith, ethics, and responsibility. The wonder and sorrow of this story also lie in how it reflects collective power, but in a manner completely opposite to the dancing plague. If the dancing mania was an invisible, irrational force rooted in biology and mass psychology, then the Children's Crusade shows the power of collective will shaped by faith and culture. Though different in nature, both phenomena demonstrate that human beings are never isolated from their communities, that an individual, when swept into the tide of the collective, can be led toward outcomes both extraordinary and tragic. In the imagination, we can feel each child step along the path, their tense but hopeful gazes, the mix of fear and anticipation for the unknown. These images make the story more vivid than any dry historical lesson. It becomes not just a historical event, but an emotional experience where belief, innocence, courage, and tragedy intertwine. As we envision their journey, we see both the beauty and cruelty of the medieval world, where actions that seem irrational carry deep lessons about humanity and society. Another important dimension is the profound human message embedded in the story. The Children's Crusade reminds us of the need for protection, guidance, and education, especially for the young. It teaches that absolute faith, without proper understanding and direction, can lead to tragedy even when rooted in noble intentions. At the same time, it stands as proof of the extraordinary inner strength, resilience, and determination people can muster when they believe in an ideal, even if that ideal leads them into peril. The Children's Crusade also invites us to reflect on how history is recorded and retold. Tragedies like this, preserved across generations, are not merely numbers or events. They are vivid lessons, allowing those who read or hear them to feel the pain, the faith, the bravery, and the innocence of people shaped by their time. This story reminds us that every person, every action, whether small or monumental, can leave a profound mark on their community. Medieval history is full of tales that feel unbelievable, astonishing, and emotionally rich, waiting for us to explore. And as we close our eyes and envision thousands of children walking along the long road, we sense both hope and sorrow, strength and fragility. The Children's Crusade proves that history is never merely a list of dates and events, it is an emotional landscape, shaped by belief, courage, and the limits of human endurance. It is an essential part of our journey through medieval stories that seem mythical yet are undeniably real. A realm where each tale opens onto a world of strangeness, wonder, and deep emotion, waiting to be entered and experienced. After following those innocent children along the path of the crusade, we have witnessed a deeply sorrowful tableau of absolute faith, courage, and the ruthless exploitation imposed by adults. The image of the young walkers crossing dangerous terrain, suffering hunger, illness, and even enslavement, reminds us of the power of human will, while simultaneously revealing the limits and risks that unwavering belief can bring. From the faith and innocence of youth, we now enter another realm of the medieval world, where religious conviction and justice intersect in ways that modern minds can scarcely imagine. This is the trial by ordeal, a method of judgment that appears superstitious, yet is built upon intricate social and psychological calculations, where life and death are separated only by the agony of suffocating rituals. Trial by ordeal was a strange judicial system of the Middle Ages, in which the accused had to endure dangerous tests, plunging a hand into boiling water or grasping heated iron. Each act, seemingly irrational, was believed to be the judgment of God, but when observed more closely, it reveals a subtle blend of religious faith, social mechanism, and human psychology. When we imagine a truly innocent person standing before a pot of violently bubbling water, our hearts race with each drop of sweat that falls, each trembling gesture, each anxious heartbeat and rising fear, a sensation both horrifying and strangely compelling as we consider how human beings pushed beyond the limits of body and mind. Though long dismissed as superstition, modern research suggests that the trial by ordeal operated through a sophisticated mechanism. One that could even be interpreted as a psychological and social test within small communities. Most guilty individuals confessed before the challenge even began, as the terror of facing such extreme pain was overwhelming. By contrast, the innocent, steadied by calmness and faith, often healed more quickly, and the results tended to favor justice. In some cases, clerics conducting the ordeal could subtly adjust the temperature of the water or the heat of the iron to guide outcomes, allowing the process to achieve accuracy rates as high as 90%. This reveals that trial by ordeal was not merely blind superstition, but a refined system designed to maintain order, deter wrongdoing, and reinforce communal belief in divine justice. These painful trials did not merely test physical endurance, they probed the depths of human psychology. When an accused person grasped a heated iron, the burning sensation surged through the body, yet the ability to remain steady and emotionally controlled often determined the final result. It is difficult to fathom that in an age with limited scientific knowledge, people crafted a method that exploited emotion and perception to evaluate guilt so effectively. This image leaves us both astonished and quietly admiring of the sensitivity and observational skill possessed by medieval leaders and clerics, who created a system that looked brutal on the surface yet operated with deliberate intention and structured logic. Trial by ordeal also stands as evidence of how religion and belief shaped a powerful social framework. When a community witnessed someone undergoing the ordeal, every gaze was fixed, every mind focused on the divine judgment unfolding. Faith in God's justice, faith that God will protect the innocent, pulled the entire community into participation. In this context, judgment was not simply an individual-facing trial, it was a communal ritual, reinforcing order, discouraging wrongdoing, and preserving harmony. This interplay of religion, society, and psychology makes the trial by ordeal a striking symbol of how medieval people pursued justice without relying on the scientific methods we depend on today. What makes the trial by ordeal vivid in modern imagination is the fusion of physical suffering with inner strength. The accused had to confront unbearable pain, yet their trust in God and their quiet resolve helped them endure, or at least survive long enough to prove innocence. This vision is both chilling and awe-inspiring, leading us to admire the self-control and determination shown in moments of extreme hardship. It also raises profound questions about human limits. How far can faith and willpower carry a person through pain? And can the interplay of society, religion, and psychology truly support a functional system of justice in the absence of scientific reasoning? Trial by ordeal serves as a reminder of how medieval people understood justice and responsibility. Instead of relying on evidence or scientific logic, they trusted in divine intervention. This reflects not only the deep religious foundation of the era but also the communal creation of shared belief, where each individual abided by sacred laws to maintain order and fairness. When we grasp this, we begin to see that actions which seem irrational were grounded in a kind of logic and purpose that differ from modern expectations. The sight of someone placing their hand into boiling water or gripping glowing iron, a crowd watching in breathless suspense, clerics patiently adjusting the temperature, these elements form a scene that is both tragic and monumental. To modern observers, it inspires both fear and respect, fear for the intense pain such trials inflicted, and respect for the keen insight and delicate judgment that guided medieval leaders. The trial by ordeal demonstrates that even in ages deemed superstitious, human societies devised creative, intricate systems to resolve questions of law, morality, and social order. Ultimately, the ordeal was more than a legal procedure, it was an emotional journey in which life, death, belief, suffering, and human spirit intertwined. It compels us to reflect on the power of psychology, the influence of social context, and the connection between human beings and their faith. The trial by ordeal reminds us that medieval history is not merely a series of tales about warriors or innocent children, it is also a collection of profound experiences exploring justice, pain, and the inner strength people summon when confronted with the unknown. And when we close our eyes and imagine such a scene, we feel the tension, the fear, the courage, we see both the beauty and the cruelty of medieval society. Trial by ordeal is not only a testament to sacred justice but a reminder that every system, no matter how extraordinary or harsh, reflects humanity's ongoing search for balance between power, faith, and morality. It opens a door for us to contemplate the boundaries of body and spirit, and the deep, enduring force of belief, a theme that runs through every strange, astonishing medieval story we have explored and will continue to uncover. After witnessing the overwhelming pain and the quiet inner courage of those who endured the trial by ordeal, we begin to understand how the medieval world intertwined faith, psychology, and social dynamics to create justice, harsh as it may appear to us today. If, in those trials, religious conviction and inner calm determined one's survival, then we now step into a different tale, one where belief, folklore, and natural phenomena merge into an image both fantastical and haunting, the wild hunt. The ghostly cavalcade sweeping across the sky, an apparition described by medieval people with fear, awe, and a trembling wonder that lingered long after the story was told. The wild hunt appears in many European legends, often depicted as a spectral host riding through the night sky, accompanied by the roaring of invisible horses, the clash of phantom metal, and silhouettes drifting through a veil of mist. Medieval villagers believed that anyone who witnessed this ghostly procession would meet misfortune or even mortal danger. To the modern imagination, the scene feels both enchanting and terrifying, prompting us to ask, how did such a strange phenomenon become a widespread belief, deeply rooted in medieval society? And as we look more closely, we discover that the wild hunt is not merely a product of folklore. It reflects the ways in which people made sense of natural forces far beyond their control. One of the natural explanations for the wild hunt may lie in the aurora borealis. Those flickering lights and dazzling colors that danced across the northern European winter sky, before science gave them a name, were understood through stories of spirits and riders, because the human eye could not grasp their physical nature. Added to this were unusual acoustic effects, atmospheric ducting, that could carry the sound of wind, thunder, or distant animals in eerie, distorted ways, making listeners feel as though the noise was coming from a ghostly host riding overhead. The combination of strange light and uncanny sound transformed real experiences into vivid legends that stirred both fear and wonder. But the wild hunt was more than a natural event, it became a cultural and social symbol. In many communities, leaders or religious figures used the legend to reinforce authority, warn wrongdoers, or explain unsettling events. A staged, mock hunt could be used to intimidate or instruct the public, convincing them that supernatural forces protected the social order. This reveals that, like many medieval phenomena, the wild hunt arose from a curious blend of nature, psychology, and culture, a reflection of how people sought safety and meaning in an unpredictable world. The image of a ghostly cavalcade sweeping across the night sky evokes both dread and grandeur. The relentless sound, the flickering lights, the wavering silhouettes of riders and horses emerging through mist, all blurred the boundary between what was seen and what was imagined. It stands as a testament to the power of imagination, belief, and collective psychology, each person drawn into the same trembling mixture of awe and fear when encountering the unknown. Medieval people saw in the wild hunt echoes of death, guilt, and divine punishment, and it is this union of emotion and myth that allowed the legend to persist across centuries. More than a ghost story, the wild hunt reflects the subtlety with which medieval people interpreted the world. When confronted with incomprehensible natural events, they turned to supernatural explanations. Stories that felt consistent with their lived experience and that provided a cultural framework to make sense of what could not otherwise be explained. In this way, the legend demonstrates a remarkable human capacity to fuse physical phenomena, personal experience, and traditional lore into narratives that carried collective weight, stories that warned, instructed, and even entertained. The wild hunt also prompts us to consider the influence of community and collective psychology. When one person claimed to see the ghostly riders, fear could spread rapidly, like a kind of psychological contagion, leading an entire village to believe supernatural forces were present. This mirrors the dynamics seen in the Dancing Plague, though in the case of the wild hunt, natural and folkloric elements played the dominant roles. It shows how people consistently sought meaning through the lens of belief and experience when faced with extraordinary events. Yet the wild hunt did not bring only fear, it also inspired a strange, ethereal beauty. The thought of spectral riders passing across a sky streaked with shifting light, enveloped in mist and eerie sound, conjures a world where reality and legend softly overlap. It suggests a space where belief, culture, and nature intertwine to create profound emotional experiences. In this sense, the wild hunt becomes a symbol of the delicate bond between humanity and the natural world. Between fear and wonder, between the past and the imagination. The wild hunt reflects a deeper truth: human beings are not solely physical creatures, but cultural ones, shaped by belief, experience, and imagination. When confronted with the inexplicable, medieval people did not simply surrender to fear, they transformed it into a vivid narrative that warned, taught, and satisfied their longing for meaning. That blend of fear, explanation, and imagination allowed the Wild Hunt to endure for centuries, not only as a legend but also as a profound lesson in how humans face uncertainty and seek order in a chaotic world. The ghostly riders do more than evoke wonder and dread, they stir curiosity about the relationship among nature, belief, and culture. They compel us to ask. In the modern world, where science explains almost everything, does imagination still hold the power to create stories as vivid and lasting as these? Looking back, we see that the strength of the Wild Hunt lies not in its supernatural reality, but in its ability to bind people to one another, to nature, and to their own deepest beliefs, creating an experience that is strange, wondrous, and rich with emotion. And so, from the painful footsteps of the trial by ordeal, we ascend into a sky haunted by spectral riders, where faith, culture, and natural forces converge to form the Wild Hunt, a living symbol of imagination, fear, community, and the medieval search for meaning. As we prepare to enter the next story of the Plague Doctors, we carry with us the image of those phantom riders across the night sky. A reminder of the strangeness, wonder, and emotional depth that medieval history continues to hold, waiting for us to explore and reflect upon. As we remain captivated by the ghostly riders streaking across the night sky, images that stirred both fear and awe in medieval hearts, the real world beneath that same sky concealed dangers far more devastating than any supernatural legend, epidemics capable of wiping out thousands of lives in mere weeks. And it was in this grim reality that the eerie yet commanding figures of the Plague Doctors emerged, those beaked physicians whose appearance inspired dread as much as admiration. If the Wild Hunt embodied humanity's fear of nature and the supernatural, then the Plague Doctors were a living testament to ingenuity, creativity, and the profound anxiety with which people confronted an invisible death. From afar, a Plague Doctor, draped in a waxed overcoat, wearing a sharp-beaked mask, gloved hands, a broad-brimmed hat, and carrying a stick or a vial of herbs, looked like a creature that had stepped out of a nightmare, strange, spectral, and otherworldly. But once we understand the true intent behind this extraordinary outfit, we realize it was not senseless superstition. It was an early form of personal protective equipment, engineered according to the rudimentary principles of what would one day become modern medical science. The beak, packed with antibacterial herbs and aromatic plants, functioned as a primitive air filter, the waxed leather prevented infectious particles from clinging to the surface, and the entire design encouraged airflow while minimizing direct exposure to contaminated droplets. In an age when medical understanding was limited, the Plague Doctors were essentially the PPE engineers of the medieval world, an ingenious fusion of observation, practical experience, and sheer survival instinct. The sight of Plague Doctors moving through silent, deserted streets, where fear and death lingered like a heavy mist, was both terrifying and strangely reassuring. Villagers who glimpsed them felt horror, yes, but also comfort. In the midst of chaos, there were still individuals brave enough to walk into the heart of danger, to tend to the dying or at least document and study the disease. They became symbols of courage under fear, of knowledge persisting amid despair, and of the human capacity to innovate under crushing pressure. What makes the Plague Doctors so striking, so haunting, is the tension between their frightening appearance and their deeply human purpose. That long, avian mask looked like something pulled from a dark legend, yet beneath the waxed leather beat a human heart driven by survival, compassion, and the first inklings of epidemiological understanding. They walked through streets filled with corpses and fading cries, bringing with them both horror and a fragile thread of hope, embodying a form of bravery that commands respect even now. Imagining this scene, we feel a simultaneous jolt of fear and admiration. These were the silent heroes standing amid a biological nightmare. The Plague Doctors also reflect the medieval fusion of emerging science and religious belief. At a time when disease was often understood as divine punishment, the protective clothing, the herbs, and the tools were not merely medical devices, they functioned as psychological rituals. They reassured the sick, the fearful, and even the doctors themselves that something could still be done, that order could be imposed upon chaos. Each step a plague doctor took was not only an act of medicine but a societal ritual reinforcing the belief that life and death, though threatening, could be confronted with knowledge and resolve. Another reason the plague doctors remain so memorable is the sheer ingenuity behind their methods. With no microbiology, no germ theory, and no scientific instrumentation, they leveraged whatever resources they had, herbs, leather, wax, to craft a system of protection that genuinely reduced exposure. Their practical creativity saved lives, limited transmission, and laid conceptual foundations for later epidemic responses. This alone commands admiration. Even with limited knowledge, medieval people found ways to adapt, innovate, and survive, and the plague doctors stand as vivid proof of that resourcefulness. The emotional power of the plague doctors comes from their position at the boundary between life and death, between emerging medical reason and lingering supernatural fear. People who saw them trembled, yet respected them deeply. These doctors carried tools, knowledge, and an immense reservoir of courage, facing the very things humans fear most: imminent death, unstoppable contagion, and overwhelming despair. In the collective psychology of medieval communities, they became symbols of hope wrapped in a shell of horror, exemplifying the strength of belief, intelligence, and determination during humanity's darkest hours. Their attire also served as a powerful social symbol. The costume was not only protective gear, it was a visual declaration of authority and knowledge. It signaled to the community that disease could be confronted, that there were individuals willing to stand at the front lines, giving society a sense of structure amid collapse. In this way, plague doctors became living legends, unsettling, hypnotic, and essential to the medieval imagination. They demonstrated how science, psychology, and culture interwove to create tools of survival. Ultimately, the plague doctors represent courage, ingenuity, and hope in a world filled with death and fear. Every step they took through silent streets testified to humanity's ability to face danger, to invent, and to adapt. They were at once frightening and compassionate, strange yet deeply noble. Through them, lessons of resilience, practical intelligence, and inner strength have been passed down across generations, becoming an enduring part of the medieval world's strange, but very real, legacy. And now, as we prepare to journey into the next tale, the story of the Green Children of Woolpit. We carry with us the image of the plague doctors, heroes in the shadows, standing at the crossroads of life and death, reason and terror. They remain a powerful symbol of how medieval people confronted mortality, survived catastrophe, and explored the world with ingenuity, bravery, and quiet, unwavering belief. Having just emerged from the haunting image of the plague doctors, figures both eerie and courageous, walking amid the terror of death and disease, we are now transported into another world, where the strange and the real intertwine in a mysterious and captivating way. The Green Children of Woolpit, two green-skinned children, a phenomenon that leaves anyone who hears their tale both astonished and contemplative. If the plague doctors are a testament to human intellect, creativity, and courage in the face of death, then the story of these two unusual children opens a different facet, a piece of the medieval mosaic that is both enigmatic and rich in humanity, where difference, mystery, and curiosity blend to create stories whose haunting power transcends time. The story begins on a foggy day in the village of Woolpit, in eastern England, where villagers discovered two children with strangely green skin, speaking a language that no one could understand. The sight of these children, lost amidst the community, regarded with suspicion, fear, yet also curiosity, sends chills down the spine of anyone who imagines it. They emerged from the shadows of folklore, yet the traces they left in historical records show that this event truly occurred, documented by respected historians. One might think it a legend, but the mystery of these children elevates the tale beyond mere mythology, transforming it into a vivid and haunting historical experience. Many modern hypotheses have been proposed to explain this strange phenomenon. One common explanation is that the children may have suffered from hypochromic anemia, leading to their unusual green skin, combined with malnutrition, which made their appearance markedly different from the surrounding community. Another theory suggests that they were refugee children from Flanders, having wandered into Woolpit due to social upheaval and conflict, and that their strange language merely reflected a foreign and unfamiliar environment. Additionally, the possibility that the children had been exposed to heavy metal toxins from local mines has also been considered. All these explanations, though scientific, do not diminish the mystery and magic that the story conjures in the imagination. Yet what makes the story even more compelling and profound is not merely the scientific reasoning, but the community's response to these peculiar children. Rather than shunning them entirely, the villagers of Woolpit fed, cared for, and gradually helped the children integrate. This image evokes a sense of medieval compassion, humanity, and empathy, a society we often imagine as harsh and superstitious. The community's acceptance and nurturing of these unusual children demonstrates that even in the strangest circumstances, humans are capable of empathy, care, and responsibility toward the vulnerable. The story of the Green Children also illustrates how medieval people confronted the mysterious. In an era of limited scientific knowledge, any event beyond understanding could be seen as supernatural or a divine sign. The villagers not only cared for the children but recounted their story with amazement and curiosity, passing it down through generations. Through this storytelling, the phenomenon became vivid, simultaneously real and mystical, educational and imaginative, leaving modern readers equally intrigued and unsettled. The image of the children walking through misty fields, their green skin, eyes wide with wonder and fear at the new world around them, creates a scene that is both haunting and beautiful. It evokes profound questions about human nature, how society embraces difference, and the limits of understanding. To the medieval mind, these children might have embodied marvels of the underworld or distant lands, yet they also testify to the human capacity for compassion, care, and education, a humane quality every society should cherish. What ensures the enduring power of this story is the combination of mystery, science, and humanity. Explanations related to nutrition, illness, geography, or even toxins do not strip away the magic and strangeness of the event, but instead add depth, creating a multi-layered picture where science and imagination, reality and legend, blend harmoniously. This richness makes the Green Children of Woolpit one of those rare stories that are both strange and true, captivating the imagination while provoking reflection on history, culture, and human nature. The story also carries deep symbolic meaning. The Green Children represent difference, the unexplained, and simultaneously the power of acceptance and compassion. They emerged from the shadows of folklore, yet the light they brought, the light of curiosity, of education, of humanity, continues to shine to this day. Modern readers of this tale see that amidst the strange and incomprehensible, humans can still find empathy, wisdom, and the will to survive. Moreover, the story of the Green Children opens a door to reflection on the intersection of history, legend, and folk culture. It shows how medieval people, despite harsh environments and limited scientific knowledge, observed, recorded, and passed on unusual phenomena, thereby forming a rich cultural and historical heritage. Thus, the Green Children of Woolpit is not merely a tale to be told, but a lesson in how humans create meaning, preserve memory, and educate future generations through strangeness and mystery. When we imagine the two children walking through the village of Woolpit, their strange green skin in the pale light of a misty day, we see not only a difference in appearance but a difference in time, perception, and experience. They are a testament to a medieval world that is at once real and magical, where the seemingly impossible can exist, and where people learn to live, to accept, and to view the world through both rational and imaginative lenses. Ultimately, the story of the Green Children of Woolpit is a blend of mystery, early science, and humanity. It prompts reflection on the power of curiosity, the courage to embrace difference, and the ability to create meaning in a world full of uncertainty. As we prepare to move on to the next story of Tarantism and the Tarantella, we carry with us the image of the Green Children, figures both strange and endearing, haunting yet full of emotion, a testament to the rich imagination and resilient spirit of medieval humanity. Having just left behind the image of the two green children, lost amid the village of Woolpit, carrying within them the mystery and strange beauty of difference, we are now guided into a world where body and spirit merge, where fear, belief, and music intertwine to create phenomena both uncanny and wondrous. Tarantism and the Tarantella, healing through dance. If the green children of Woolpit awaken curiosity, compassion, and the enigma of medieval humanity, then Tarantism opens an entirely different doorway, a world where the body becomes a symbol, where music and movement possess the power to heal, to soothe mental anguish, and even to rescue those trapped between fear and despair. Tarantism originated from a widespread belief in southern Italy that victims of spider bites, particularly from the tarantula, would fall into a mad state, their bodies trembling uncontrollably, requiring treatment through a frenzied dance known as the tarantella. The sight of people running and leaping wildly across village squares, in pain yet exhilarated, creating a strange allure for onlookers, is a vivid testament to how body, psychology, and folk culture interacted to produce extraordinary phenomena. Initially, outsiders might have dismissed it as superstition or mass hysteria, but upon closer examination, we perceive the subtle intelligence in the way medieval people employed movement, music, and communal participation to confront fear and tension. From a modern perspective, Tarantism can be understood as a conversion disorder, in which the body manifests physical symptoms in response to stress, anxiety, or trauma. The tarantella, with its rapid rhythm, continuous repetition, and highly communal nature, effectively releases tension, stimulates endorphin production, and offers a temporary escape from suffering. It was an early form of community therapy, where music, movement, and collective participation became a medicine for the spirit, providing safety, attention, and care for those afflicted. We realize that behind the seemingly irrational frenzy of the dancers lies a sophisticated understanding of mental and physical health, another testament to the extraordinary adaptability of medieval people. Scenes of Tarantism unfolding on the streets, with lively music, trembling bodies, dripping sweat, and communal engagement, provoke both awe and fascination. They create an atmosphere simultaneously chaotic and ordered, where fear and joy, pain and release, merge into a powerful emotional and spiritual experience. The community's participation is not merely observational or supportive, it is an essential part of the healing process. Every step, every drumbeat, every chant contributes to the collective energy, dissipating anxiety while reinforcing social bonds. Tarantism also illustrates how medieval people interpreted and addressed phenomena beyond their comprehension. When strange symptoms appeared, the community did not abandon the afflicted but created a social ritual, the tarantella, to heal, educate, and strengthen belief. This is a remarkable blend of folk medicine, early music therapy, and communal psychology, where each individual becomes part of a collective healing process. In this context, superstition was not blind faith but a subtle survival mechanism, helping the community cope with anxiety, illness, and social instability. A particularly compelling aspect of Tarantism and the tarantella is their capacity to generate intense emotional experiences. Dancers endure pain, tension, and anxiety, yet simultaneously feel exhilaration, release, and connection with the community. Music and movement do more than soothe the spirit. They create a living form of art, where emotion soars and the body becomes a medium of expression. In the medieval context, this is clear evidence of how humans used culture, art, and the body to confront hardship, forming early methods of mental therapy, precursors to modern psychological practices. Tarantism also speaks profoundly to the power of belief and community. The conviction that frenzied dancing could heal encouraged compliance with the ritual, while communal witnessing and support reinforced the experience, creating a ripple effect that drew others into the dance. This is a vivid illustration of psychogenic phenomena, collective psychological occurrences where belief, social pressure, and individual behavior intersect to produce unusual yet psychologically grounded effects. Seen from this perspective, Tarantism is no longer irrational. It is a harmonious expression of body, mind, and community, even if it appears chaotic and strange. Beyond being a folk medical phenomenon, Tarantism became an integral part of Italian culture, music, and art. The tarantella, with its rapid, repetitive, and energetic rhythm, not only healed but became a cultural symbol, reflecting how humans employ art to create meaning, connect communities, and overcome fear. Over time, this music and dance became part of a heritage, carrying the message of art's healing power and the capacity to transform pain and anxiety into creative energy and intense emotional experience. The image of people dancing frenetically, bodies trembling, drenched in sweat to the beat of drums and music, forms a scene that is both chilling and mesmerizing. It demonstrates human adaptability, where body, mind, and culture converge to produce unusual but effective survival strategies. It reminds us that in the medieval era, phenomena that seemed strange often contained intelligence, creativity, and communal strength, factors that helped humans navigate fear, illness, and life's uncertainties. Ultimately, tarantism and the tarantella are not merely curious phenomena to recount, they are lessons on how medieval people confronted pain, stress, and fear. They show that body, music, belief, and community can unite to create extraordinary healing power, opening a window to understand the intelligence, creativity, and resilience of our ancestors. As we prepare to move on to the next story of alchemy and the philosopher's stone, we carry with us the image of the frenzied dancers in the tarantella, figures both suffering and liberated, strange yet humane, a testament to the richness, wonder, and vibrant life of the medieval world. Having just stepped away from the frenzied rhythms and liberating energy of the tarantella dancers, we enter yet another world, one where science, philosophy, and mystery intertwine to create stories that are both captivating and deeply instructive. Alchemy and the philosopher's stone, alchemy that is far from absurd. If tarantism is a testament to humanity's ability to use body, music, and community to heal the soul, alchemy reveals the capacity of medieval people to combine careful observation of nature, experimental practice, and the desire to transform the world in their own way, opening a magical doorway to early scientific discovery and experimental thinking. Alchemy, in the eyes of many modern observers, is often dismissed as fanciful, superstitious, or a dream of magical stones capable of turning base metals into gold or granting immortality. Yet, upon closer examination, what is called absurd is in fact the foundation for modern chemistry, medicine, and metallurgical techniques. Early laboratories, glassware, furnaces, separation and refinement procedures, all were meticulously carried out by medieval alchemists with patience and a scientific spirit. These practices were not merely symbolic, they truly produced compounds, elements, and chemical reactions, laying the groundwork for the knowledge we rely upon today. What makes alchemy compelling and full of life is the way it combines philosophy, spirituality, and empirical science. Medieval people believed that the universe operated according to harmonious principles, and the transformation of metals or the search for the philosopher's stone was not merely a physical act but also an expression of spiritual and intellectual transformation. Every experiment, whether it ended in failure or success, was a step toward understanding matter, energy, and the nature of the world. From these failures and persistent efforts, alchemy nurtured the experimental mindset, the capacity to observe, experiment, analyze, and draw conclusions, which remains the core of modern scientific inquiry. Alchemists such as Paracelsus and Geber were not merely dreamers chasing gold or immortality, they were diligent researchers, keen observers, and skillful practitioners, combining theory with hands-on experimentation. They tested compounds, observed reactions, recorded meticulously, and gradually developed techniques for metal refinement, medicinal preparations, and pharmacological studies. While their knowledge may not have fully aligned with modern scientific standards, it served as a crucial starting point for contemporary medicine, chemistry, and pharmaceuticals. Looking back, what once seemed absurd emerges as an extraordinary journey of intellect, patience, and the human drive to explore. Another aspect that brings alchemy to life is the interaction between early science and philosophy, where each physical experiment was paired with contemplation on the nature of the universe, humanity, and the relationship between spirit and matter. Medieval people saw the transformation of metals and the search for the philosopher's stone as a way of demonstrating understanding of the cosmos, and each experimental step as an inner journey, elevating knowledge, spirit, and perception. This reflects the richness of medieval intellect, where science, philosophy, and spirituality were not separate but intertwined, creating a world both mystical and tangible. What is particularly captivating about alchemy is how it transforms individual effort into a collective journey, where knowledge is passed down through generations, through books, records, and oral tradition. Every failed experiment became a lesson, every small discovery was remembered and contributed to the foundation of knowledge, paving the way for future inventions and advancements. This is a clear testament to how medieval people continually learned, experimented, and innovated, even with limited tools and scientific understanding. Alchemy also evokes the universal human desire to transform oneself and the world, an extraordinary longing that resonates across all ages. The pursuit of the philosopher's stone or the elixir of life was not only a material quest but also a reflection of spiritual aspiration, a desire to grasp the laws of the universe, understand the nature of existence, and create meaning. It conveys a message of perseverance, intellect, and faith in human potential, reminding us that discovery, even in the face of failure, is always a path toward understanding and progress. The image of alchemists engrossed in their laboratories, the flickering fire illuminating glassware, flasks, and instruments, paints a scene both mystical and vibrant, both enigmatic and real. Repetitive actions, meticulous experimentation and observation, even when not producing gold or immortality, yielded real results, new elements, new compounds, methods of metal refinement, techniques for medicine preparation, and above all, the cultivation of scientific thinking. In looking at this picture, we realize that alchemy is not mere legend but a symbol of human intellect, patience, and creative capability. Remarkably, although the ultimate goals may have seemed absurd, the discoveries and techniques alchemy produced transformed humanity's understanding of the world. From metal refinement to medicinal preparation, from systematic record-keeping to experimental practice, alchemy served as a bridge between legend and modern science, between extraordinary belief and practical application. It demonstrates that ideas which appear fanciful can become seeds of extraordinary advancement if approached with perseverance, observation, and learning. Ultimately, alchemy and the philosopher's stone is not just a story about gold or immortality, but a testament to the intellect, patience, curiosity, and experimental spirit of medieval people. It teaches us that imagination and practice are not opposites but complementary, and that journeys which may seem absurd can open the path to real understanding and progress. As we prepare to enter the final story of the Beast of Gavaudan, we carry with us the image of the alchemists, dreamers, practitioners, and early scientists, a testament to the extraordinary, mysterious, and vibrant world of the Middle Ages, where intellect, belief, and creativity intertwine to create real wonders. Leaving behind the magical world, knowledge, and creativity of the alchemists, where belief, practice, and imagination intertwine to produce extraordinary discoveries, we step into another facet of late medieval and early modern history, the Beast of Gavaudan, the creature that terrorized 18th century France. If alchemy opens a window into human intellect, the desire to transform, and the exploration of nature, the story of the Beast of Gavaudan reveals the dark, wild, and dangerous side of the medieval world, where nature, humans, and fear converge to create events that are both horrifying and haunting, sending shivers down the spine when imagined. The Beast of Gavaudan appeared in the Gavaudan region of central France from 1764, plunging local communities into extreme terror. The creature's attacks were meticulously documented, not merely folklore or oral tales, but real events with records. Around 60 to 100 people, mostly women and children, were killed or seriously injured. This rapidly became a real threat to the community, prompting authorities to deploy hunters, scouts, and even the military to track the beast. The sense of helplessness in the face of an invisible, ferocious, and elusive creature caused the population to live in constant fear, creating a terrifying atmosphere unmatched by most stories. What makes this story vivid and compelling is the blend of biological reality and folklore. Modern hypotheses suggest that the beast was not supernatural but perhaps a wolf-dog hybrid, an escaped exotic animal, or even trained killer animals. Observing its attack patterns, territories, hunting strategies, and ability to avoid humans shows that it was a real, highly intelligent predator, reflecting the genuine dangers of the wild that humans faced. The combination of meticulous records, physical evidence, and folk legend gives the tale both a scientific foundation and a mystical aura, captivating anyone interested in history and mystery. The Beast of Gavaudan was not just a source of personal fear but also a social phenomenon. Its continuous presence created a collective psychological terror, influencing how communities interacted, traveled, and protected themselves. Children avoided the fields, women had to walk with men, and anxiety became part of daily life. This illustrates how fear and natural phenomena can profoundly affect society, generating precautionary behaviors, rituals, and storytelling, giving rise to legends, warnings, and adaptive strategies. What makes the story particularly haunting is the interplay of actual fear and human imagination. Survivors describe the beast as enormous, extraordinarily strong, with jet-black fur and fierce eyes, details that are partly factual and partly imagined, enhancing both terror and legend. Folk traditions link the creature to curses, omens, and supernatural powers, spreading fear beyond physical reality into psychology, culture, and religious belief. From a modern perspective, the story also teaches lessons about collective fear and early media influence. News of the beast spread rapidly across villages, towns, and even to the French court, causing public panic and pressuring authorities. Hunting the creature became urgent, involving professional hunters, soldiers, and military forces, with records noting successes and failures. This process demonstrates how fear and information can be transmitted, amplified, and influence social behavior, a phenomenon both historical and psychologically relevant today. The image of the beast, ferocious yet enduring through hunts, becomes a symbol of the unexplained. It reminds us that, despite human intelligence, tools, and strategies, there are natural phenomena beyond control, demanding humility before nature and the survival instincts of other species. This delivers a strong message about the balance between human intellect and the natural world, and the respect owed to living creatures sharing our planet. Another aspect that makes the story compelling is how fear and the beast influenced culture and art. The events of the Beast of Gavaudan inspired countless stories, books, paintings, and folklore studies. It became a symbol of horror, unavoidable fear, and simultaneously a testament to human creativity, imagination, and the need to make sense of phenomena. Tales, artworks, and records about the beast help future generations understand the psychology, culture, and social environment of the time, showing that fear, whether rational or not, shapes perception, belief, and collective behavior. The story of the Beast of Gavaudan also serves as a reminder of the limits of knowledge and control. Despite hunting strategies, weapons, and animal knowledge, humans could not immediately subdue the beast, creating continuous tension and testing community resilience, cooperation, and responsiveness. The perseverance of victims, hunters, and villagers reflects extraordinary survival skills, the ability to learn from experience, and confront danger, all factors that add to the tale's appeal and provide deep lessons for modern audiences. Ultimately, The Beast of Gavaudan is not just a story about a monster but a living testament to fear, nature, culture, and society in the medieval world. It shows how terror, extraordinary phenomena, and human imagination combine to shape history, legend, and profound lessons about perseverance, adaptation, and discovery. Closing the series of 10 strange yet true stories, from Berserkers, Dancing Plague, Children's Crusade, Trial by Ordeal, Wild Hunt, Plague Doctors, Green Children, Tarantism, Alchemy, to the Beast of Gavaudan, we see a panoramic view of the medieval and early modern world, both mysterious and tangible, terrifying and miraculous, where humans, nature, belief, and imagination intertwine to create stories with timeless vitality. The tale of the Beast of Gavaudan concludes the series but opens countless reflections on history, culture, and human psychology. It reminds us that, in any era, fear, extraordinary events, and imagination are crucial elements shaping perception, behavior, and culture. Most importantly, it proves that history is not merely dry facts and figures, but a chain of vivid, strange, and emotional experiences, deserving to be told, especially as bedtime stories, when imagination and curiosity are free to soar. As we close the journey through the legends of the Middle Ages, from the frenzied dancing plagues, the children's crusades, to the chilling trials, the ghostly cavalcades, plague doctors with their beak masks, and even the beast of Gavaudan spreading terror across France, the truth gradually emerges: history is not written solely through wars, dynasties, or dry numbers. It is also woven from the fears, beliefs, and vivid imagination of humanity. And sometimes, the things that seem most absurd reflect the truest essence of their time. If you feel there is still more left untold, it is because the medieval world is always shrouded in mist, always whispering secrets from the past, waiting to be deciphered. Legends do not die, they only wait for someone patient enough to look deeply within.